which type of Dead by Daylight player are you? So what I mean by that, to put it bluntly, every single player, no matter killer, survivor, one of the people who got sucked into Dredge's body, every single player can be stereotyped and grouped into, well, a specific group. So, are you a casual, a compy, a sweat, or are you someone whose other your hours come from you in the store just trying on a bunch of different cosmetics? Because I ain't gonna lie, yeah, I am the person who is in the store doing all of that. And keep in mind, well, I've been playing since Project W, I believe, and I somehow still have under 1,000 hours, even though I played this game constantly. But then I clocked that I ain't even playing it constantly because most of the time I'm in the store just trying on items, because I find the entire experience a lot more enjoyable than actually playing Dead by Daylight. Nah, I'm just playing. I actually love this game so much. I think it actually might be my favorite game, but that ain't what we're talking about today, because we're talking about how Dead by Daylight is secretly, but also not so secretly, a fashion game.
And I think it's really fascinating just because there is an entire subreddit called r/Dead by Daylight fashion. But also, like, a real quick side note, Dead by Daylight has so many subreddits. So there's r/Dead by Daylight, then you have Dead by Daylight fashion, Dead by Daylight Rage, Dead by Daylight Killers, Dead by Daylight Killers United, and I also came across one earlier that was r/Oinkers _, which is a whole subreddit dedicated to playing the pig. I just thought it was really funny because I don't think I have ever seen a game where it has this many subreddits. I don't know, I thought it was just interesting, innit? Anyway, that ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fashion of Dead by Daylight and how it's actually become a core identity to the game, which again, I find really fascinating just because there is only a limited amount of things you can change to your character. So for Survivor, it's head, body and legs, and for Killer, it's head, body and weapon. And keep in mind that you ain't able to toggle accessories on and off. You ain't able to recolor any part of the outfit. So let's say like a part of the outfit is blue and you want it to be purple, you can't change it. Some outfits have custom sounds and some outfits are completely linked, so you can't mix and match. And keep in mind, this is all from what's supposed to be a horror game, but I think we're way past the point of calling Dead by Daylight a horror game. Although, even now, I still do get a little bit scared when I get grabbed off of a generator from like Ghostface. But what's also crazy to think about is that, you know, it kind of makes sense for survivors to buy outfits because they're stuck in third person. Whereas with killers, the majority of them are stuck in first person. I say majority because I understand there are like a few killers who can go into third person, or they have an ability to let them see their character, so Doctor or Unknown, for example. But apart from that, you ain't gonna see your outfit unless you're Moriing a survivor. So for 99% of the match, you're just staring at the killer's hands, which, I mean, shit, you know what, I ain't gonna judge. You do you, mate. But I think this raises the question, why do so many people care about cosmetics in DBD? And I understand that, you know, cosmetics ain't for everyone, but I don't think I've ever gone into a match where someone ain't changed something to their outfit. And I think that there are three pillars to this: individuality and personality, FOMO, and stereotypes. But if I'm being completely honest, I think that individuality is probably the biggest factor into why people love the cosmetics so much, because everyone deserves individuality, even in a game that does get slightly repetitive sometimes. DBD has the same gameplay loop Because after doing your 4,000th generator or killing your 6 billionth survivor, you want someone making the experience a little bit more personal, and the only way to really do that is with cosmetic. There are definitely millions of players who already play your main, unless you play Yoichi. Yo, I'm actually really bad with names, so my bad. But I know there's about 5 reviews running around the gaff. However, my point is that customizing your character makes you feel more personally connected to the game. And everyone is drawn to a specific character for a different reason. If your main survivor is a licensed character, that shows that you are a big fan of the franchise to everyone, because you can't get licenses for free. You have to pay for them. So for example, I have a massive hard on over the Silent Hill franchise, so my main switches from Maria to James to Alessa, sometimes Cheryl if I'm feeling fun and festive. But for non-licensed characters, it's mainly because they're attracted to their cosmetics or sometimes their lore, or they could be known for something else like Tuxedo Ace. What I'm trying to get at is that you only really remember the outfit of a character when you're in a trial. Like, you barely ever remember a username, unless it's something like Hex Hags his Minge or something, because that's just completely different. DVD is a game where it gives you enough time to notice their players and their behaviors and their cosmetics, and soon you'll start to build an association between a character being good or a character being weak. Which is why, like, when you watch streamers and stuff, some of them will say, oh yeah, this team looks fairly strong, without even looking at their hours. They ain't looking at the characters themselves, they're looking at their cosmetics. This was ages ago, so I ain't record it, but I remember this was during 2v8, yeah, and I queued up for some solo queue, and remember, the killer queues back then were mental. And when I got into the lobby, there was an ace with the top hat, that massive bright neon coat and leopard undies, and I saw about 5 killers dodge that lobby, and it was purely because of him. But I think this serves my point that association, perception and presentation all play a big part in how your teammates and the killer will see you. Because if the ace had a different cosmetic on, would the killers have dodged? Probably not. But because the killers had already decided what type of player the ace was before the match had even started, they associated his cosmetics with that of a really sweaty player. So now this leads to the question, why doesn't everyone just play as Ace, or a character that's seen as sweaty and good? I already mentioned it before, but people just don't resonate with his character. I like to believe that people choose the characters that they want to present themselves as in the trials. A great example for this is the Guna Sables. So, them man who put on Sable's like bikini top and like the hella short skirt? They're using Sable as a way to say, oh yeah, I find this bird fit. Granted, some people just like that she's an emo or a goth, whatever you want to say. My second pillar to this is stereotypes. And I feel like stereotypes vary from character to character rather than cosmetics, but there are a few exceptions. So for example, Frosty Eye Killers. They're toxic and they got no head. Legacy players either have way too many hours in the game or they're hackers. This was just for fun, but the Saber that I was talking about, the one with the most skin showing, they're gooners. And last but not least, I just want to talk about FOMO. Behavior 100% understands that people care about individuality, rarity, and status in this game. In all honesty, any games company does. And how do you create a way to sell this feeling? You do it with cosmetics. Imagine this, yeah, you load up into a match and you see someone with an anniversary crown and you're thinking, wait, that looks sick, where do I get it? So you scour the web, maybe dipping your toes into some r/Dead by Daylight fashion, And then it turns out that you could only get it if you were part of the anniversary event. And in some players' heads, this isn't just about it being a cosmetic anymore. It's more about how exclusive it is. As Dead by Daylight players already associate cosmetics with personality and skill. If you see someone wearing like some mad up old Rift cosmetic here that was released before you were even born, you're instantly gonna start thinking, wait, this person's gonna be mental, even if they're terrible at the game. Don't get me wrong, behavior really does create some beautiful pieces, and so does the community as well, with the community design contest, which I ain't gonna lie, the community design contest is probably one of my favorite events of the year, like when it runs around, because I feel like the community actually gets a bit closer, innit? I don't know, I think it's just really sweet to have players actually leave their mark in Dead by Daylight's history. And you know, it's just mental to think about, because one day you're designing some like clothes in your bedroom for this game, and next thing you know, you're into a match and you see people wearing your cosmetic. However, what I'm trying to get at is that the rarer a cosmetic is, the more personal it feels to own. Like the PUBG Dwight skin, alright? I love it, and I wish I played Dead by Daylight when that skin came around, but I know I'll never be able to get it because PUBG and Dead by Daylight might never collab again. And even if they did, they might not release the PUBG Dwight skin. And hold on to your balls, I ain't forgotten about killers either. You see, when you see a killer for the first time during one of your chases, if they're a default, you're gonna think that they ain't good, because why would you pay money for a skin that you can't even see? So your brain's just gonna assume that they're just trying out the killer or they're practicing, which then subconsciously changes how you treat the match. So this supposed horror game has turned fashion and cosmetics into an identity, and I can't say that I know a lot of games that have done that, but I think it's brilliant, and I love seeing all the different combinations that people come up with. And you know, Dead by Daylight YouTubers also have a certain look to their character. For example, Slate, when he plays Survivor, I always see him in the David like romance outfit, or Mish is a better example. She plays Nia with the blue and pink hair. Anyways, I don't know how much longer I can yap about this for, because I'm actually feeling to play some DVD. So like and subscribe, or your favourite character will never get a maid outfit.